Welcome to Yoga for Recovery as part of the Yoga Strength for Everyday Endurance Athletes. We're going to start in an easy pose, and I'm just going to have a block that I'm going to sit on simply because that helps to elevate my hips a little bit, and it makes it easier for your knees to fall open. So if you have notoriously tight hips, which as a cyclist or runner you may have, this is a nice way of getting into an easy pose and feeling comfortable in it. So as usual, as part of this course, we'll start with our breathing. And we'll start inhaling and exhaling through your nose into your belly. The inhale is to expand your belly. The exhale is to relax. So today's main pose is at the top of my least favorite poses. And it's there because it's just not comfortable. It's one of those things like when you were a kid taking the medicine because it was good for you, but it tasted horrible. This is a really effective pose for opening up your hips, but good Lord, especially at least for men, those of us who are older, who have some hip challenges, it's just not any fun. But it was really effective, and I'm getting better at it. So, all right, we're going to start with, I'm going to take the block out. We'll start with an easy pose, an easy forward fold, or a seated forward fold. But what we're going to do is take the block and put it underneath my knees. And I do that so that I can get at my hamstrings a little bit better. And again, we're not going to force this. As kids, we might have tried to grab our toes and just pull. We're not trying to do that. We're going to inhale and just lean forward and then come back. Inhale into your full belly and exhale. All right, we'll do one more and then we'll get into cow face. We really we'll do cow face, then we'll do a child's pose to kind of recover, but also a little bit of opposite rest from that. All right, so cow face starts with you on your knees and hands, but, and I'm going to kind of be straight to get my knees. You bring your knees as far wide as they can. So you might be sideways on your mat, you might be on your carpet. It really is up to you. But what's key, and I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this. So my knees are wide. I'm going to take my feet and point them out. And that's where the name comes from, of frog. And I'm going to stay this way so that you can see what I'm doing with my hips. And this is where it's going to get uncomfortable. So first of all, bring your knees as far apart as is comfortable. Don't try to force it now. Okay, don't try to be uncomfortable. Just come to that point where it's like, okay, that's as far as I'm going to go. And don't do this in front of a mirror because you'll look ridiculous. I know that I look ridiculous. I just looked up at the camera and going, oh dear God. So from here, my hands are on the mat. The inhale is simply to come forward, and the exhale is simply to push your hips back. And it is just going to be tight. And that's as far back as I'm going to get right now. And there's just a little, there's no pain. It's just a little like, oh boy. On the inside of my thighs, it gets into my glutes. It gets into the hamstrings. And this is one where I was working with a gentleman the other day who is kind of a go-getter, and he doesn't necessarily, he kind of has an on and off switch. So he's going really hard. I go, no, slow down. if you try to force this, A, you might get hurt, but B, you're not going to get anywhere because it's just everything is going to be so tight that if you do this slowly and not force anything, you will make progress. Like, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm already making some progress, moving backwards. So the goal is to kind of do the splits. That's the goal direction. If I ever get there, I think my legs would be broken. I think they would have to be broken in order to get in that position. I have seen women come almost all the way down, so that it's a hip mobility thing. So all of us are going to be different. And I'm going to get my knees just a little wider. The other thing to caution you on this is when you get up, because you're in this very demanding pose and you're working it a lot. You're really putting some effort into helping your hips be more open. And getting up is like, whoa, hello. First couple steps are always like, not wobbly, but you feel your hips. And then suddenly they start to open a little bit like that. Just, I moved maybe a couple of centimeters back. So our next pose, which we'll do in a moment, is just going to be a child's pose. All right, here comes the challenging part. I'm going to roll forward and I'm going to bring my knees a little bit closer together and come in to a modified child's pose. So I'm going to keep my knees a little closer than normal and sit back and reach forward. So I'm trying to get as low as possible. You can even, if you want to in a child's pose, take a block, put your head on it, and bring your hands behind you. So the inhale is to come up. The exhale is to try to flatten your back a little bit so that you're working the backs, your glutes, but also your lower back. And so the inhale is to come up, exhale is to reach if your hands are forward. All right. So this is a short recovery yoga today, simply because cow is fairly stressful. All right, we'll come up, find ourselves back into easy pose, and I'm not going to get up on camera. All right. Thanks for joining us. Again, if you have questions about yoga, strength training, or coaching with Simple Endurance Coaching, check the virtual coffee button below us. That'll get us, an appointment. That'll get us an appointment, and we can chat about what your needs are and how I might be able to help you. Thanks. Take care.